will explain it to us, or I'll just type in, please explain the ending of Alone in the Dark. Look at it this way. She beat the game. Yes, we did beat a game, so that's a good thing. I'm waiting to see. Oh my gosh, how long are these credits? I want to see if there's an ending thing. Keep going. Stream is down again. Well, the stream is down. This isn't good. I'm just going to keep talking, though, so at least it doesn't mess up the VOD. Oh, boy. All right. Let me type stream down. Be right back. Stream down. Be right back. Oh, well. C'est la vie. At least we got to the end of the game.
Inspector.
Twitch Inspector. Let's look. I'm just going to keep talking because at least it'll be on the VOD.
Hey, chat.
Where did Twitch Inspector go? It was there. Oh my gosh. I had a tab for it. I don't know where it went. It closed for some reason. Oh boy. No, 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 no. Why is it doing that? My whole... I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why it's doing that. But what is going on? Hold on, we'll be right back after these short messages. Well, I don't know. Hi. I don't know what's happening. Everything is broken. We lost stuff again. My computer started freaking out. I don't know. I think the Eldritch Horrors did something. I think something bad happened. I apologize. I don't know what's going on. Zeroscape said I had to full on restart Twitch on mobile for it to come back on mobile. Twitch said, no, you cannot finish the game. I had to restart my entire computer. Because the computer was freaking out. But that's not why I went down. I went down because of something else. Well, I guess we're going to call it there, chat. I don't know what's going on. John's going to call and yell at the internet provider again. So that's a thing. But at least we got to finish the game. I'm sorry, it was a dumpster fire here. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to play Gloomy Eyes. I'll show you guys here what that is. Are things going to work now? Gloomy Eyes. Hello? Here we go. All right. Gloomy Eyes, it says it's a cozy horror self-co-op. So I guess we use 2 characters. Adventure about 2 unlikely souls who forge a forbidden bond and journey together to find the sun. Explore eerie yet charming Tim Burton-esque levels, switch between 2 unique characters, and solve brain-teasing puzzles. So we'll check this out tomorrow at 2 o'clock as a pop-up stream. By the way, there was no... I don't know why my body just moved there. There was no after game end thing that I can tell with Alone in the Dark. I waited and I didn't see anything. It just said you unlocked like a different game version, because supposedly with Alone in the Dark, if you hold on, I gotta clear my throat. Supposedly with Alone in the Dark, if you played again but with the girl, you get like different cutscenes and different things happen. It's better to be a dumpster fire starter or a dumpster fire starter streamer, says Cheetown. I don't know. I do not know. Zeroscape says, it's okay. We're just glad you were here. Aw, thank you very much. Well, we did finish a game, so there's that. Well, don't unleash the Eldritch Horrors into the world. Yeah, sorry about that. Have fun sleeping tonight, guys. Have a good time.
Whoa.
All right, let me see. Who is now my mouse isn't working. What is going on? Let me just see who is streaming here that I can raid. Now that I lost all my viewers because of that crash. Let's see. All right, we'll raid Zombie Pandemic. All right, let me see. Copy. Let me set up this raid here. Rick says, yes, can confirm that each Alone in the Dark character has a different story. What I did want to see is, let me see really quickly. I wanted to see, let's not be that big. Don't be that big. Don't be that big. I wanted to see, please go back outside. There we go. And why did my body move again? I don't know. Everything is haunted now. It's that time of year. I wanted to see explain Alone in the Dark 2024 game story. Let's see if we could find an explanation. Recap and ending explained.
Whoa.
All right, here we go. Is this going to be long? Oh, this is a lot of reading. Okay, this is a lot of reading. let me see. It says, all right, so here we go. We got some closure. Alone in the Dark story recap and ending explained. Alone in the Dark story recap and ending explained. Alone in the Dark is a remake in 1992 game of the same name. Its story revolves around Edward Carnby, who travels to a psychiatric facility named Derceto Manor with Emily Hartward, who is looking for her uncle Jeremy, who was a resident there. In our Alone in the Dark story recap and ending explained, you'll discover the dark truth about Derceto and the nightmare that Jeremy has fallen into. How does Alone in the Dark begin? In the beginning of the game, we're introduced to Emily Hartwood and Edward Carnby. Carnby is a private detective Emily hired to find her missing uncle, Jeremy Hartwood. According to Emily, Jeremy thinks his life is being threatened by somebody called the Dark Man. Emily's not sure this is true, as madness runs in her family. Could Jeremy be having hallucinations? After meeting with Dr. Gray at Derceto Manor, Jeremy went missing. Before he vanished, he wrote to Emily, telling her the people at the facility were part of a cult that was out to get him.
Whoa.
What does Edward discover about Jeremy? You have the choice to play as two characters in the game, and for the sake of this playthrough, we chose Edward. After gaining entry into the facility, Edward discovers it is completely deserted. He finds various documents written by staff and patients, including a note hidden in a Bible, hinting that the people within the facility are in a league with a voodoo cult. As Edward explores the manor, he encounters a housekeeper, a girl named Grace, a man named McCafferty, and a woman named Ruth. Edward recognizes Grace from somewhere but can't figure out where. He learns from the housekeeper that Jeremy is lost. This is of no surprise, as his disappearance is why Edward and Emily came to Derceto Manor in the first place. In Jeremy's room, they find his journal. It contains information about a place called Taratella, which is a place Jeremy created as a safe haven for himself, but where he was never able to reach. Edward also finds a diagram of a talisman as well as a picture of Jeremy holding the talisman and a book named Reflection. When Emily leaves to find Dr. Gray, Edward follows her. But as he exits Jeremy's room, the layout of the mansion changes and Emily is nowhere to be seen. Strangely, Edward finds himself in the French Quarter of New Orleans. It's a reality that exists inside Jeremy's imagination. Here, he discovers monsters that want to kill him and a man named Baptiste. Baptiste tells Edward that Jeremy made a pact with the Dark Man and that he is now hiding in a place that nobody can find. He's doing this using a juju necklace, a magic item that was given by Miss Jackson, a voodoo priestess. The necklace allows Jeremy to travel to other worlds. Edward heads to Miss Jackson's apartment and finds the talisman. He uses it to get back to Derceto. Does Edward find Jeremy? Back in the manor, Edward meets Dr. Gray. Edward asks about Jeremy, but the doctor gives nothing away, citing doctor-patient confidentiality. Instead, he tells Edward to speak to his orderlies for more information. When Edward leaves the office, he meets Emily again. He thinks he's crazy when he hears him speak about the place he had been transported to. After picking up some clues about Jeremy's location, Edward uses the talisman to complete a clock puzzle that is transported back into another of Jeremy's memories. Here he encounters a fierce monster and Lottie, Baptiste's sister, who is also looking for Jeremy. Edward finds a bag, but before he opens it, he's attacked by a monster. He's saved after grabbing the bag, which transports him back to Derceto. Inside the bag is the book Jeremy was holding and the picture Edward found earlier. The book highlights a place called the Great Library. After some puzzle solving, Edward goes to the Hartwood family chapel and finds the body of a lady in a coffin. Her name's Elizabeth, another resident of Derceto, who is a friend of Jeremy's. At the chapel, Edward also meets Jeremy, who tells him he's here to keep evil at bay for as long as he can. Jeremy's upset, and Emily's at Derceto because he warned her to stay away. Jeremy talks a bit about the deal he made with the Dark Man and how this pact meant he would be trapped in the Dark Man's sunken temple for an eternity. This is bad news for Jeremy, but good news for the world, as it's a way of keeping the people at Derceto from unleashing evil into the world. The Dark Man appears and Edward is thrown to the floor by Jeremy. Edward then returns to his reality, but a little while later he enters another realm through a door that takes him to a convent. Here he meets a man named Juan, who is the author of the book Edward found previously. I'm still confused. Juan explains he has a figment of Jeremy's subconscious, as is Taratella, which was the safe haven Jeremy had created with Dr. Gray. Juan directs Edward to the Great Library, but warns him that the Dark Man exists in the library texts. At the Great Library, Edward heads to the library and as expected, the Dark Man turns up. After a tense chase, Edward escapes his clutches and finds a book that speaks of a sinister showman in New Orleans. As he's reading, the Dark Man appears to pull the book from his hand. Before Edward is killed by his evil menace, Juan turns up and blows a whistle to distract the Dark Man's attention. Edward escapes and meets with Ruth. She's heard that Jeremy's trying to break his promise with the Dark Man. What does Jeremy tell Edward? With Ruth's help, Edward returns to a memory of Jeremy, who he finds in an empty stage venue. Jeremy is in fear of the Black Pharaoh, the sinister showman that was mentioned in the book. Jeremy had witnessed the Black Pharaoh's show as a child when he had been taken to the theater by his father. He talks about the pact he made with the Dark Man and how he will be freed from it if he makes a sacrifice at the sunken desert temple. Edward uses the talisman to access the temple and find an ancient dagger and contract between the Dark Man and Jacob, who is somehow connected with Jeremy. He is then taken back. Thank you for the 2 subs. Pretty Hate Monger gave a sub to Dano and Blades. Thank you. He's then taken back to her when he tells Emily about his experiences. He also tells her he knows how to break the contract between Jeremy and the Dark Man, something that can be done using the sacrificial dagger to release the despair from Jacob's eye. However, if the contract is broken, Derceto will be doomed. What does Edward discover? Edward hears that Baptiste and Lottie speaking. It's apparent that they're up to no good and not on his side. He hears them mention the black goat and the coming arrival of the mother. Is the tree the mother? Oh no, go ahead, it's fine. You can interrupt to give me money and give out subs. That's fine. Interrupt me, for goodness sakes. Which ending is it? This is the guy ending. Edward then enters Dr. Gray's office to find a note from the doctor that references a lobotomy he wants to perform on Jeremy. Oh, so the lobotomy was going to happen anyway. The doctor mentions in the note dark blotches on Jeremy's brain scans, which Jeremy referred to as the shadow of the worm that is eating him from inside. Edward enters another memory where he finds himself on a boat, which is one of Jeremy's safe hens. He sees Jeremy and Dr. Gray speaking to one another, but they can't hear him. Back at Derceto, he meets McCafferty. He tells Edward that he and the other residents are going to pay tribute to the whispering tree in the conservatory. Edward also speaks to Grace, who tells Edward she's going to turn the world inside out so that things will begin again. The next memory Edward enters into one of his own. He's in his office where he's looking at a case of a girl who's been abducted by her father Theodore, who's trying to ditch his old life. The mother tasks Edward with finding her. In the memory, Edward catches up with them at Pearl River Bridge. Here he sees Grace, the girl from the manor. She's the girl who was abducted by her father. We learn that Theodore drove his car off the bridge and drowned. We also learn that Edward handed Grace back to her mother, who, it turns out, was abusive. Theodore was actually trying to protect his daughter from her. Oh well, big fuck up there. After falling into the water, Edward wakes up in a bath at Derceto. He meets with Emily again, who believes Derceto has an effect on those staying there and makes them deranged. What happened in Dr. Gray's room? Emily knows Dr. Gray is hiding something. So she and Edward go to the office where they find a hidden room. The phone rings. Edward picks up the call, and a man on the other end tells him Jeremy is with the Dark Man and that Edward can't save him. Edward uses a talisman to open a doorway to a snowy realm. Here he finds a diary belonging to Jacob and learns that the man has discovered an ancient solarium. Shortly after, he meets Jacob, who tells Edward that he isn't wanted there. Jacob attacks him, but Edward manages to get the better of him. Using the talisman, Edward aligns the stellarium with the Taurus constellation, opens up a hole in the cosmos. At this point, Jacob is resurrected and he becomes a monster. The two of them fight, resulting in Edward stabbing him in the eye with a dagger, an event that was alluded to in Jeremy's contract. Edward wakes up in reality and discovers he has stabbed Jeremy in the eye. When the Dark Man appears, Edward attacks him, but he is then pulled away by Baptiste. Edward then passes out. When he comes to, he's in a room with Baptiste and Grace. Baptiste tells Edward he has a psychological breakdown, that he'd been hitting Dr. Gray and not the Dark Man. How does Alone in the Dark end? In the final chapter, Edward meets with Jeremy and Dr. Gray. Gray tells Edward that he had to lobotomize Jeremy to remove his delusions and mania. It's then time for the ceremony. Grace tells Edward that she's the goat without horns. That was the sacrifice we read about earlier in the game. and that only she can settle our debt to the mother. Dr. Gray is concerned about using the new words Jeremy gave them for the ceremony, but they continue to chant them anyway. Grace puts a noose around her neck, and McCafferty proceeds to hang her. She's the sacrifice for this deranged cult. Edward tries to save her, but Batiste stops him. Emily arrives and shoots Batiste, giving Edward the chance to shoot McCafferty and save Grace. When he goes to help her, the tree comes alive and becomes a monstrous creature called the Black Goat Monster. This is what the group at DeCeto had been worshipping. The creature kills the cult members, but not Edward, who was able to dispose of it. In the process, DeCeto starts to crumble and burn, but Edward is able to get outside and meet Emily, Grace, and Jeremy. Jeremy tells Edward that everything is out of order and that he shouldn't be alive. But Jeremy is alive, and so too is Grace, who tells Edward that he ruined everything. Despite this, she's not mad at him and joins Edward and the others as they leave the area and head to New Orleans. Okay. Who was the Dark Man? The Dark Man is an evil god who traveled to New Orleans under the name of the Black Pharaoh, the sinister magician that Jeremy witnessed as a child. Jeremy's father died at the stage show, a result of a curse passed by the Dark Man. This curse then transformed to Jeremy, who had been possessed ever since. The only way Jeremy could break the curse was to end himself or break the terms of the contract that he made with the Dark Man. Okay, what was the contract? Well, at DeCeto, Jeremy became a way of the cult that was forming in its grounds. He also learned of their intentions to make a sacrifice to the tree, something that would unleash evil into the world. To stop this from happening, Jeremy made a pact with the Dark Man. In that pact, Jeremy handed himself over to the Dark Man in exchange for the Dark Man containing the madness of the cult within the walls of DeCeto. So there just happened to be two really bad things going on at the same time. This dude had some Dark Man possessing and in him, and there was a cult, and so they got combined together into the same story. So I thought somehow everything was going to be connected in the end, but they were two separate things that just happened to be happening at the same time. So Jeremy handed himself over to the Dark Man in exchange for the Dark Man containing the madness of the cult within the walls of DeCeto. The terms of the contract were to acknowledge the psychological trauma, break through the barriers of self-deceit, and temper manic behavior. These were terms set by the Dark Man, as they were things Jeremy would be unable to do given his already fractured mind. The terms of the contract were broken when Edward stabbed Jacob in the eye, and consequently, Jeremy, who was freed from this mania after being lobotomized, now free of his manic behavior, the Dark Man was no longer able to contain the evil within DeCeto. Thankfully, Edward managed to kill the creature that the cult had been worshipping and was able to save the world. I don't know. Did that clear anything up for anybody? It's still kind of... Rex says, I kind of thought the Dark Man was based on the King in Yellow. It had that vibe. Who is the King in Yellow? But thank you all for coming and hanging out. I really do appreciate you all being here. Where's my music? Like I said, tomorrow, 2 p.m., Gloomy Eyes, the Eyes of Gloom. I don't know if that cleared it up for anybody. It didn't clear it up for me. I still think he was crazy and hallucinating and all. That would have been a better ending to me. I love twist endings like that, where it turns out, oh, he was in an asylum and all of this was going on in his brain. Like, I thought that's where it was going when it sort of with the little girl Grace, when it turned out that she was actually someone in one of his cases, I was like, oh, it's going to turn out that all of this were cases that he worked on, that he was like an investigator, a private eye, and these are all cases and places he worked at and people he met during all his investigations. And we were going to slowly unravel that all of these people were people that he were either part of his investigations or asked for investigations, and he was just intermingling all of these things mixed up in his brain and making this crazy story about it. That would have been a better story to me. Zeroscape says, I get it now more than I did before. It's kind of there. I don't know. It's all right. It's okay. You're welcome, Hate. You're welcome, Rex. Thank you all for being here. All right. So there we go. That's the end. We're putting to bed Alone in the Dark. Maybe they'll come out with Alone in the Dark too. I want them to redo the one in New York City in the museum, but make it work, like for reals. All right, we're gonna go now. It reminds me of the movie Identity. Check out that movie. Let me write that down. I'm gonna write it down right now. Movie Identity. Movie. Okay, I can't write on here. Okay. Movie Identity. Okay, I will look that up. All right. Thank you all. Let's see if we can go through the end credits. We'll see you all tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Bye-bye. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry, it kind of went a little dumpster fiery. This stream was made possible by and continues because of contribution of viewers like you. Thank you for your support. Until next time, be a good human. It's easy. Just don't be an asshole. Thank you for the subs and the resubs. Dano and Six Blades and Modding. It will press Spock, Shadov and Blurb. Everybody else, the thing reset like 3 times, so all of the credits are gone. But thank you all, every single one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a good night. Goodbye.